Alright everyone, it's time for the Occult, video number 352, The Haunted Hill Curse. This is a Vincent Price movie. Link in the description, by the way. You can watch the movie. It's public domain. It's available on YouTube. It's probably been uploaded elsewhere as well. Excellent film. If you like Vincent Price or you like older, campy sort of 50s and 60s style horror movies, like the black and white silver screen era of really great horror with the creature features and shit, back-to-back special, Vincent Price and Basil Rathbone. You'll like this movie. It's one of my favorites. It's very campy. I was researching it because it's one of my favorite movies, and I like to know a little bit about them. And I was going through the actors and actresses, and there aren't that many of them. There are only 9 characters in the entire film. It's not like in some cases you have a bunch of extras at least, but because of the actual location here, there are no extras. There are a couple of minor characters in the movie, and then there are 7 main actors and actresses within the movie. And an inordinate proportion of them had very quickly after the movie or thereafter odd or unfortunate circumstances. And to the point where, based on the fact that there are so few people that acted in the film, it's about half of them, a bit more than half technically. There's a whole blogosphere about the Exorcist curse because there were a few people after that movie that suffered various financial or health issues, lost their careers and stuff. That's fewer people, and that's with a full cast. And the number of extras in The Exorcist numbers in the hundreds. I'm sure some of them had a stroke in the next couple of years. But this, mathematically speaking, is a little bit odd, and a couple of the specific demises here are rather odd. In fact, 3 of the main actors and actresses stumbling into various tragedy. For example, Carolyn Craig, young starlet. She plays Nora Manning, actually, in this film. By the way, I do have their character names off to the side here, just so that I don't get them mixed up. She shot herself a few years later. House on Haunted Hill was the last major film that she ever participated in. She had been sort of a rising starlet, and this was a reasonably beefy role. She's one of the main characters. It's a Vincent Price movie at his peak. It's a pretty good launching pad for greater things. But things dried up for her, despite the fact that, she's a starlet, and she was one of the 2 pretty women in the film, and so, there was a bit of a divergence in their careers. The other one, of course, I think it had been Miss Utah initially. She went on to other films and had fun. But she shot herself, committed suicide years later. Not many years after. This was the last film, effectively, that she participated in any meaningful capacity. Alan Marshall, who played David Trent, he plays sort of the doctor in this film. This is his second to last role before he croaked of a heart attack at just 52 years of age. So, again, there was only one other film role that was, I believe, contemporarily being produced at the same time before he managed to croak. Then you have Julie Mitchum, who plays Ruth Bridges. This was her last film role, the final one before retirement and, of course, eventually dying. Richard Long, who played Lance Schroeder, one of the more compelling characters. He was sort of the vaguely baby-faced, sort of in that vein of, like the pretty boy, sort of the person you'd cast off as the gumshoe or the spy or something, maybe in a film noir from 10 years before this. You have that transitory period where they're still getting roles, but they're always being cast alongside young starlets. So he's vaguely flirtatious with the females in this film, specifically with Nora Manning, Carolyn Craig's character. He died when he was just 47 of heart failure. He had apparently a flu or something as a kid, and it damaged his heart and it became weak. That's not immediately after this film. It's several years later, but again, you've got yet another slightly odd death. He's a young man dies. 52-year-old man dies of a heart attack. It's not that uncommon, but it's on the youngish side at least. I do realize people back then smoked profusely, so probably didn't help. And then you have, of course, a suicide. It was also Leona Andersons' final film role. She played Mrs. Slydes. It's a bit role, appears literally twice for like a total of 15 seconds or something. She was on the old side, so that one's not necessarily mysterious. But again, 5 individuals comprise a bit more than half of the entire cast of the entire movie, and their careers all end because they either drop out of film or they die. In several of the deaths, it's very bizarre. A suicide of a very young person, Leona, of course, and then a 47-year-old having a heart attack because of a pre-existing condition that apparently was known. So it's like, hey, you should take it a little bit more easy with the filming. I would like to point out as well, Vincent Price himself, of course, he goes on to many decades of additional material, and he's friendly with the Burton crowd and stuff like that. He had a long and luxurious career. He's also a gourmet cook, apparently, and wrote cookbooks. I'd like to get one. That must be off the chain. Especially the Halloween-themed dessert section. I'm sure that it's quite beefy. Or pumpkin-y. Vincent Price plays a playboy in this movie, who's had several wives. He continuously had marital difficulties and ended up on wife number 3 before he died. Of course, therefore predicting the trajectory of his romantic life. Just throwing that out there. Again, I haven't seen any other film where there have been so many untimely deaths or dropping out of film, especially after a reasonably well-received film. It's a Vincent Price film from that era in which he's at his first peak. Of course, later on he peaks again in the Tim Burton era. With Thriller, did the voiceover there as well. You may not know that. And yet several of these people, who were still relatively young, they end their careers, and most of the rest of them croaked. They couldn't have a career. Except as if they do a remake, and apparently they did, and I refuse to watch it. Without Vincent Price, it's not House on Haunted Hill. There's one scene with a skeleton in it. I guess the dead actors and actresses can compete for that role in the eventual third remake. They'll make a woke version, I'm sure. Vincent Price to be replaced by Amber Heard. So yeah, a little bit tongue-in-cheek, because I don't necessarily believe in film curses per se. And to my knowledge, Price and these others, they weren't actually involved with the occult or anything like that, so I can't imagine that negative energy would be attracted in the first place, voodoo hoodoo style. But it is interesting. It's an anomaly, really, when you think about it. It is odd that many people had that many kinds of problems in short proximity to the film, especially, again, when a Vincent Price film role should boost your career, at least within the horror subgenre. This is right before the golden age of horror. When you really think about it, you're right in the thick of things. It is that peak period in which the creature feature, sci-fi, men from Venus, giants from Mars, David Bowie singing sort of thing is just launching off. This is a bit before Bowie, but general, like about a 2-decade-long period of time. Before then you get the slasher era, and horror is technically ruined forever, although some of those movies, peak slasher, Jason 5 and 6 and so forth, yeah, pretty good. So yeah, just an interesting, slightly tongue-in-cheek reference here. That's about all. Peace out.